All right, ready to dive in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, burn it to the ground.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. Yay! Or whatever that. Hey! What did Fonzie always say? Hey!
This is gonna be a bloodbath. Let's try take 3 and see if this one works. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cantina Club's Outer Rim. This week, we're going to be talking about episode 5. I think we're on now of season 8 of Game of Thrones. So this will be a bloodbath, and it may get ugly. But we do have spoilers, so warning right now. If you haven't watched the episode, turn it off because we're going to get into everything. We'll be right back. This is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just.
I don't think you
Why do I have a feeling we're all going to be at odds on this one?
I don't know. I think I will just it could be all together. It could be peace and harmony.
You know better.
I don't see how any reasonable
Is this your
person could
cast?
disagree with me.
Oh,
I have
of
full
course not.
confidence that you're reasonable and that you'll believe the same stuff I do.
Right.
Hey.
I have to say, Three-Eyed Raven lied and lied and lied out his ass to me. He lied and lied. Three-Eyed Raven, will Daenerys go mad?
Three-Eyed Raven, will Daenerys go mad? Very doubtful.
Oh. Three-Eyed Raven, will Game of Thrones jump the shark?
You mean during the course of this season?
Yes.
Okay. Three-Eyed Raven, will in season 8, Game of Thrones, will it jump the shark? Ask again later. Hey, Three-Eyed Raven, we don't have time for
It's
this.
over.
Three-Eyed Raven, we don't have time for this. One more time.
This
I
is
will
what happens
ask
when
you-
you coddle a three-eyed raven.
You're not helping. This is why he doesn't want to answer the question.
Oh, I see. My
Back off.
presence is just.
All right, one more time. Okay, yeah. All right, settle down, Raven. Okay. All right, Three-Eyed Raven.
There is an unbeliever amongst you.
Will Game of
Cast
Thrones
him out.
jump the shark in season 8? Don't count on it. All right.
Hope for the best in the three-eyed raven chicken breast.
So I'm not happy with the Three-Eyed Emu. I mean, it's like not happy. Not happy. I want to know what 2-bit
Three-Eyed Pigeon.
flea market for
He has revealed all
mystical
of
beast
his
you picked
Costco-
up that
his
Three-Eyed.
Costco deli glory. He has revealed.
All right, so we're going to jump right into episode 5 of season 8 of Game of Thrones, the title of which escapes me. No, it's The Bells. That's the title, The Bells. So let's just kind of go around the horn here and give our initial impressions. Let's start with Gundart.
Profound disappointment. And I'll
Okay,
just say
so
two more sentences, and then later we can get into specifics. To me, it was kind of as if Shakespeare dropped dead in the middle of writing Hamlet, and they hired a 2-bit revenge tragedy writer to come in and finish the script for him.
This volume of footnotes to help you get the jokes you get.
Write Shakespeare's Greatest Jokes, Box 1976, Drury Lane, London SW1.
Francis Bacon.
It was not even Francis Bacon, dude.
Shake and bake.
It was more like it was great on spectacle and horror, but I felt it was a profound disservice to many of the characters. So that's where I'll leave it. We can get into details later.
Gundart does not bend the knee. Okay.
No.
All right, let's move over to Greedo.
I was straight gonna sprain the knee on this because that was straight trash, just straight garbage episode. I enjoyed watching it for the spectacle, just like Gundart said, but it's not Game of Thrones. It's not, and I see no resemblance to anything that I've watched or read in prior incarnations. And my initial thought is every single character was sacrificed. They're all too stupid to live. I don't care what they do next. And that episode was trash. And I will say the production was fantastic. Never, ever going to insult anybody who worked obviously super hard work. I even watched the behind the scenes stuff, and that was amazing. The spectacle was great. The detail in the sets and everything. It's just not mirrored in what ends up on screen in the scripts. And garbage, just garbage.
Okay, you're really a traitor.
Okay, so we've got to
betray
bend the
us.
knee for Greedo.
Stab us in the back. Or are you going to
All
join us in our rebellion?
All right, let me just put it this way. I honestly agree and with a lot of what you said. Not 100%, but I do agree with it was probably the single most beautiful episode possibly ever of Game of Thrones to me. The way it was shot.
So you're obviously a sadist.
The way the certain aspect of emotion and just everything about it to me I thought absolutely stunning to look at. The Wednesday, and I've already seen the episode 3 times because it's just so visually appealing. It keeps pulling me back in. Now, story-wise, obviously, it's not. It totally misses the mark. I'll give you that. It totally misses the mark. I obviously don't think I hate it as much as you guys do, but I do get where you're coming from. I do get where you're coming from. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, you guys sound like you're about a 2 or a 3. I'm probably about a 5. I'm probably about a 5 or a 6. So, still, it's only mediocre to me, but I'm not panning it to the point of hating it. You know, I guess is a strong word for me, I think.
So you don't feel mean mad?
Tell me, Tommy, did they make you mean, son? Did they make you mean, angry, son? Did they beat you and make you fighting me? Why, you're nothing but a fighting mean hunk of angry, mean bully, Tom. Tommy, you vicious, mean, Tom. Tommy, you mean bully.
Ma! I'm not mad at no one.
You don't have a mad rage about this.
Now, Tommy, don't get mean, nasty mean. No more vicious, Tommy.
Shut up, Ma.
I have a mad rage now.
That's been what's flaming all over the internet the last 2 days. I've read about 40 different commentaries and reviews, and I have certain reviewers I love to read, and then I just read as much as I could about it.
What's
and
the consensus? Is there one?
Rotten Tomatoes is at 50. It's almost evenly divided, and even the critics who had the fresh tomato readings had certain really severe problems.
Caveats,
some negativity to say,
So
podcast that the main podcast that I listened to was to this point the harshest thing I've heard yet. Just basically sounded like what Greedo just said on steroids. Trash garbage ever produced on television based on what the quality is. So yeah, he just. It sounded that it might have been actually Greedo and just changed his voice or something. 'Cause he was literally saying the same things Greedo said about how completely ignorant the characters are and how complete just everything about it was
avoiding it. I'm here for the characters. Yeah, I mean, I'm not here for the dragons. The dragons were an awesome bonus always in Game of Thrones, but the characters are the backbone, and they're too dumb. I think that this is my recurring theme, isn't it? That they're just too dumb for me to support. It's like if someone's running for office and at first I like their ideas and they open their mouth and everything they say is stupid, I just can't vote for them. And I can't get behind a journey of fools, a ship of fools, unless it's Monty Python or something.
If there's ever going to be any progress,
There is some lovely filth down here.
Satire.
It was just intended to be that way.
With that point, why don't we talk about the beginning, because it has Varys being found out, and that bothered me. I thought it was so quick, and Varys is the spider, the king of spies, and he was just foolish and going right up to Jon and saying, "I want you to betray Dany."
That's crazy. And obviously he was scribbling too loud in his chamber. And people heard what is he doing? I think he's betraying Varys. Because she already knew before Tyrion even turned him in.
I did like how he was trying to poison her in the opening scene, and I was amazed at how few viewers got that on the internet. No one was commenting on it.
I thought that's right. I think I told you.
Yeah, it was. Immediately when we were watching it.
I mean, it's the only thing that made sense.
He wasn't concerned whether she was eating or not. He was concerned that she wasn't eating his poison that he had planned for her. Right.
Yeah, and Carillion's right. It's the one thing that made sense. It was the one thing in character for him, because it's the throwback to season 1 when he tried to poison her, because Robert Baratheon wanted him to, and he plays the game and he does what he has to do for what he thinks will be the betterment of the realm. So I wasn't surprised by that at all. But the foolery of how he was found out, it was just too swift.
His game was really weak, though. It was like a shadow of his former self, almost like they're checking a box saying, "What would Varys do?" Well, he'd try to poison her. It didn't fit. Varys would be more creative than that. He would not get caught trying to poison someone. He would accomplish it. He would. I don't know, and he wouldn't be there at the scene of the crime either. That's not his style either. So anyway, and I won't even get into how disappointing Tyrion is in this, and flipping on Varys, probably been established as his best friend in the world besides Jaime in this show, and unbelievable to me. Just my disappointment is epic in Tyrion.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry,
Carillon saved your life.
Yeah. We're not trying to talk over you. You've frozen a couple times. That's why we realized you're talking. So.
I'm actually getting this thing back. You guys are freezing and going into slow-mo on me too.
Yeah.
But we'll just keep going with it, and hopefully the recording works out.
Yeah, go ahead. While you got
my point. Yeah, my point was, Varys has saved Tyrion multiple times throughout the course of the show, and he just immediately turns him in. Now I get that Tyrion's desperate, because he knows he's been, quote unquote, failing the queen time after time after time, and he knows he's running out of cards to play with her. So it's almost like, okay, I'm going to turn in Varys rather than getting myself killed. But I didn't buy it. It wasn't in character. The whole Varys thing to me sat really wrong. It was left a really bad taste in my mouth, and just the execution, the whole bit is like, I don't know. This
really whole season he's been a waste of a character. This whole season, Varys has, and we knew he was being left over for something when he was spared in Winterfell, and just not this. This
disappointment.
And he flipped on a dime. This is the theme of the whole thing: is characters flip flopping all over the place. Can we count them? Varys flipped on Dany for no reason. He hasn't seen how she rules. He didn't even give her 5 minutes. He heard about somebody that might be better.
Yeah.
Whose honesty, I can't see how Varys would not see him as a detriment, just like he saw Ned as a detriment. He knew Ned wasn't somebody he could work with, really, because of his honesty. He's too honest.
Yeah.
And he flipped on Dany. Jaime flipped on himself and Brienne and Cersei and everybody multiple times.
Yeah.
Daenerys flipped.
Everybody
is flipping all over the place.
Can I say something though about Varys's death scene? I did like the way it was shot.
Sure.
And I like where it occurred because it's there on the beach where the Red
Mhm.
Woman burned
Right.
the people for
Exactly.
Stannis' ambition. So if they had taken their time to develop this, they could have built up Tyrion's betrayal to the point where he had no choice other than, and it could have been heart-wrenching, for him to betray Varys. The death could have been really it could have been fitting with the thematics of the overall show, especially with that location and the way that it was shot with Drogon coming out of the darkness, to consume him. All of that. If only they
That was
had
really
built
neat, really,
the
really good.
characters.
But it was beautiful, but everybody was standing way too close to burning
Yeah.
dragon fire and burning
yeah.
human. They were standing right there like a
absolutely.
dragon knows to pull like the cone of fire, like it doesn't splash or get on them or anything. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. And John sits
Yeah.
there like an asshole, or whatever we want to call him, an arsehole, whatever medieval. He just sits there and stares and does nothing and sits on his hands again. What a waste of skin that guy is. And a huge, tremendous disappointment. When's he gonna stand up for something that matters besides his precious, Night King? That's the only thing he's ever stood up for recently, and he's let everything else just roll right over him. When's he gonna show some backbone? I don't want that guy on the throne. What a waste. He's the biggest idiot that's ever lived. And but I will say before I don't want to keep talking, dominating this, but I don't think if they're smart, this isn't the last of Varys. I think Varys may have had a plan B. If he was Varys of old, he had some plan B in place. And you could also defend this a little bit on Tyrion's part, because Tyrion may not have known it, but knowing Varys, he knew Varys had something in the works that was going to kill Daenerys. So he had to act. In a way, if there was poison there or whatever, he probably did save her by doing that. Unless she already knew. It seemed like she already knew. So I don't. This show's beyond my reckoning
was
anymore.
sending out all of those notices to whomever about John's true parentage, so he was planning something beyond just poisoning Daenerys. So, yeah, maybe so.
He's all about spreading word.
What about? I guess is the next big scene like whenever Tyrion frees Jaime? Is that the next big event?
Yeah, Arya and the Hound get past the guards and about this in the same time per frame, I think, and then
Tyrion
right after that.
And Daenerys and Tyrion have that scene where Daenerys really just kind of goes off on him and says, "Your next failure is your last one." She pulls out the Lord Vader card.
And then she had the scene with John too, where he rejected her advances, and she said that, "Okay, let it be fear then. If I can't be loved."
Yeah. And I want to say, good for Daenerys for finding the one person in the realm shorter than her that she could bully. Way to go! That really makes me admire you, Queen Stormborn, Chainbreaker, and all that crap. Way to go! Just bully the midget. That's fantastic. Keep it up. I'm sure your laws will be just. Must be over this height to have justice in my realm to ride this ride.
Why don't we talk about this scene with Jaime and Tyrion? Because even though I felt the motivations of Jaime in going back to Cersei, we can talk about that in a minute, I didn't like. I loved that scene because I thought the two actors played it beautifully. They have such a wonderful chemistry with each other. It was heartbreaking. I liked how it was a throwback to Jaime letting Tyrion go, and to all the three wonderful conversations they had in prison when Tyrion was in prison. It was some of the best conversations of season 4.
Really, yeah, exactly.
And they were talking to each other. And so the bond between them was really powerful in that scene. And Tyrion telling him that you are the one reason I survived my childhood, because you're the one person who didn't treat me like a monster. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, if only
that was an excellent scene.
If the character motivation for what Jaime was doing had been better, it could have been a real
While you're on that, I want to say, same here, beautiful scene, and I don't know which of them was crying, maybe both of them, but when they broke down in tears, that's one of the only times this season I felt like this is coming to an end, and I felt like it was going to have an impact on someone. It's so rushed that just seeing someone acknowledge the desperation of the situation with tears like that and genuine affection between them was amazing. But I'm asked to swallow garbage to get to that point, because how did Jaime make it down there? I mean, all rules of any kind of sense are just out the window. It was supposed to be winter. Winter should be hard to travel. A person alone on the King's Road they're dead. I mean, it's been established the land is trashed from all these years of war. How did he make it down there? How was he stupid enough to get captured? We're asked to just believe a bunch of garbage to just get these scenes. And that's one of my major problems is I can't keep suspending disbelief in a show that already exists in a fantasy realm, and I have to suspend so much disbelief just to accept the premise, It didn't used to be this way, and I don't understand why they can't tweak little things to make sense. They did. They just. There's so many. I almost wish someone would go back and re-edit this whole season and they could just fix so many things in post, that would, and put little explanations in that would help a lot of this. But that's all. That seemed great, except for that for me.
Carillion, what did you think?
I love the scene. I'm gonna probably sound like a broken record here. With it looked amazing. Just everything about the way all these scenes were shot was incredible. But to the meat of the actual scene itself, I loved the chemistry between the actors. Obviously, is fantastic. I did like the dialogue here, the crying bit at the end. Like Greedo said, I think that really starts to bring it home that this is ending. And this is and obviously, as we know now, that's the last time those two will share a screen together. And I loved it. I mean, that's the one thing I guess that to me is almost like one of the biggest tragedies of all of it, with the storyline going south the way it is, but the actors are still bringing their A games.
Yeah, they want to be in this still.
They're still performing the material, the material they're given. They're still doing their best job. So I do give kudos to that.
There's some though that have literally nothing to work with.
Yeah, they're not.
And like Varys had nothing. He had no lines up until this point. And there's other characters that I won't go into because I don't want to sound like I'm insulting actors, but there are characters that have nothing to work with. They could almost draw upon a library of their reaction shots from the past and throw them in at the appropriate moment.
Yeah, exactly, because they're just not giving them
There's nothing new. There's nothing new.
Bronn is one of the main ones. I will mention a name, Bronn. I mean, that's just, I think it's a criminal how they've treated his character this season.
Yeah.
He's been such a great character series. Now it's just like a couple cameos and that's it.
Yeah,
it would have been better to have him with the Winterfell crew. Just abdicate the King's Landing and go with Tyrion. It's almost like they and I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that he and Cersei won't do scenes together, and that's why you never see Bronn in the same stage. So why would you leave that character in their orbit where they refuse to work together? I don't. Again, what? I don't get it. And we didn't talk about another scene, but how ridiculous was that scene where he showed up with the crossbow and threatened them and stuff? And they did their best to bring their old swagger and camaraderie to the scene, and it was just hollow. It was a sad shadow of its former self. Because of the dumb logistics of the thing was just overwhelming. It's like, here's Bronn in the north, walking around without a coat, without a cloak, nothing. He's carrying just a crossbow. He looks exactly the same as he walked out of King's Landing. His chamber in King's Landing.
He walks right into two of the most powerful men. Two of the most powerful men in the kingdom. He walks in with a weapon, right?
In the north, and he's one of the main generals of the South.
Exactly.
He's got to be his wanted poster. He's like Black Jacques Chirac, wanted for square dance calling or whatever. It's got to be right there on the wall. And he walks in with a crossbow like he's getting to do homicide. Like, who lets their enemy walk in ready to do homicide? And he's in the north in winter, and he doesn't even have a freaking coat, no dust. He got there. He wasn't even inconvenienced by the journey. The journey's so freaking easy. He took a bus where they let you carry the crossbow openly. A jetpack, yeah. Okay, but anyway, I didn't mean to get sidetracked.
Let's move on. Why don't we move on to the battle the next morning?
Do you guys know how crushed I am that I have to criticize a scene with Bronn, Jaime, and Tyrion in it?
I know.
That's soul crushing. That's soul crushing. I hate it. Okay, go ahead.
Let's go to the beginning of the battle. We can talk about what transpired later in it, I guess, later. What about the opening of the battle? This is where, let Carillion talk about this, because this is where I think like the photography and the spectacle is incredible.
It really was. That one shot of Jamie with the guard walking past him, and he's in his cloak walking down the middle of the rows, was just so epic looking. I mean, that was so great. And I'll shut up now.
Yeah, let Carillion talk.
I'm going to. That was my favorite.
All right, so Gundar, what specifically are you asking? The beginning of the battle itself,
Yeah.
like with the Iron Fleet, or with the okay?
And when everybody's they're prepping, like everybody's flooding the streets, and the
right.
the army shows up from the north, and
I think honestly, the way I interpreted some of those shots of all the people flooding into King's Landing, to me was very indicative of the rushing pace of this season. Okay, in reality, I don't think those people would be getting there literally as the armies are lining up.
Right.
That's a good point.
It's like I think they would have been there long before that. We've had, this wasn't, even though it feels like, the Battle of Winterfell was, day before yesterday as far as the showtime is concerned. It really was weeks ago, at least. So there's time that these people
why would you go into the one place that's under attack? I know traditionally people rush into the city, but why wouldn't you get out of the way of this one?
Right. Okay. Because that's a really good point. Because I get it. You're quote unquote protected behind the walls, but it's the one place that's under attack,
target, right.
And it's not like the invading army here is like a bunch of Dothraki, as it were. They're just like rape and pillage and burn everything around. They're only targeting the King's Landing. They're not just out ravaging the countryside. Exactly.
And they've got an aerial attack. They've got a dragon that can just go right over those walls. So and then you trap
the walls
yourself
mean
inside the
nothing
wall.
in this battle.
Yeah.
Walls mean nothing in this battle. But to get into some of the specifics maybe of the Iron Fleet, the scene was okay. Again, it was shot beautifully, looked amazing, but I don't know. But it was lacking, and I know we haven't gotten there yet, and I don't want to get into stuff too far ahead. But when Drogon attacked the ship that Euron was on, he should have died a burning, fiery death there.
Oh, absolutely.
That travesty of a scene that comes later. Yeah, we'll get to it.
What should have happened was Drogon should have landed full force on that scorpion and crushed the whole hull of that ship, and then grabbed him in his jaws and shook him into pieces, and then set the pieces on fire. I mean, can you imagine the reaction that would have gotten? Instead of magically getting blown by the force of the flames, like, woo, 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 I'm going to run in the air in front of the flames. What?
I will say that I loved Drogon taking out the scorpions. Every time another scorpion went into flame, I cheered.
I did too.
At a revenge for the stupidity of last week of Rhaegal being taken down by this stupid thing.
It's fun to watch.
But at the same time, it emphasized how stupid that was last week. That the dragon ought to be able to take those out with very little problem.
Where does the fire come out of the dragon's mouth?
It's butt.
Oh.
Okay, I got to interject one thing again. I get so tired of being right all the time. But do you guys remember that I said the scorpions will be absolutely useless next week?
Yeah.
I said they've shot their load. They're done.
Yeah.
They were here as a plot device for one thing. They've done it. They will be absolutely freaking useless. They didn't even get to take out a single troop with them or anything.
Yeah.
They just sat there like, I can't turn now. I can't aim. We got 1,000 of these, and I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
It
emphasized how foolish
it was
that
plot.
before. Yeah.
Can we agree that this whole thing? When did I say that? A couple weeks ago, I said, "Are you starting to feel the plot dictating everything?" It's dictating everything.
Yeah. Well, what about whenever I did love the moment whenever Drogon exploded the gate after taking out the fleet, and then explodes the front and takes out the Golden Company all in one swoop, except for
why were they in front of the gate?
Poor Harry Strickland.
Never
okay, let that go because it was cool.
Why?
Let it go.
No, I can't let that go. It's another thing that makes no freaking sense at all. Oh, we got an army besieging our walls. Well, let's put all our cavalry outside the walls and our ground troops outside the walls to face them. You mean their backs against the wall?
Yeah, strategy.
That is freaking dumb.
strategy, but it was a great effect, and I loved whenever he exploded the wall, and I loved the image of the broken horse. That was just so shocking and horrible.
The horse did come back to life though and get Arya at the end.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Yeah, because like what we could talk about that horse.
He was a little bowler.
But the image of that was
that was shocking. That was one of the most shocking images in the whole episode. I thought was that horse getting crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
They did.
What were you gonna say, Chris?
No, go ahead.
No, I said I have some thoughts about it later when we get to
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
The scene with Arya.
So we were pretty satisfied with the at least the appearance of the spectacle, the way that the beginning of the battle was shot.
As long as we're on the gate, I have a couple more things. I'm sorry, I have to put in here. The gate explodes like a freaking volcano went off. How does Drogon have all this fire? I mean, for 40 straight minutes, they've shown him exhausted before in the past. I know he's at his full power now and he's angry, but we've never seen Dragonfire just obliterate stone, wood, a huge medieval gate, and just be like a lava flow going through, knocking everybody over. It was badass and cool, but still. And then you have this bizarre thing of looking up, and there's hundreds or thousands of Dothraki who we saw die a week or two ago. They're suddenly there like they're from a video game, and I look around and there's hundreds or thousands of Unsullied.
Now,
the guys that they put in with their
this.
back to a trench.
Let me interrupt there. I'll say this, that in their war council last week, they showed on the board and they said that they had half of the Dothraki left and half of the Unsullied.
And that was a lie then. Because there's no way that would have happened. Not with their stupid battle planning and everything. Half the Dothraki ran, maybe, and half the Unsullied ran, which is totally against their character because they're fearless.
Yeah, completely.
But yeah, no, I have to point this stuff out because this stuff is what comes. This is me. Is what comes to mind when I can't watch it without going, "What the fuck are the Dothraki doing there now? And what the fuck are the Unsullied doing now?" Just like I thought, why do you send the cavalry charging in the dark when a cavalry's one of its main a cavalry charge, one of its and Dothraki, its terror is one of your main weapons. Well, you're fighting zombies who feel no terror. So let's just put on a terrifying display that means absolutely nothing to them. It's that kind of stuff that just bugs the hell out of me. They got to be thinking of this stuff and they just don't care. It would take nothing to fix it. Okay. So anyway, that was not it. I think that's all my thoughts on the gate. The spectacle was cool. It looked badass. I enjoyed watching it. I just hate thinking about it.
Why don't we move on to Arya and the Hound? Let's wait to talk about what Dany does, Daenerys' transformation, I guess, till the end, because that's been the most controversial aspect of the episode, at least online and among critics and most viewers. Right. But after she begins trashing the city, I think is when Arya and the Hound actually get into the Red Keep, where Arya's going after Cersei and the Hound's going after his brother. What did you make of the scene where they said goodbye and where he tried to send Arya away?
I love that scene. We see them arrive in the map room, with the ceiling crumbling down, and they have their little exchange where she's, of course, all fired up and wants to go up there and take out Cersei, but the Hound reels her in, and I really love that moment, and especially the way it was shot again. And I think the juxtaposition of her size versus his size.
Yeah, I love that.
Hand around her head, literally, it's like her head fits inside his hand almost,
Right.
And just the way it happened was just amazing. And then the way she you die here. Told him thank you at the end. He kind of snapped her out of her, that zone. And right, I'm going to die if I go up there. I'm not going to come back. So I loved it. I thought it was really well done. Very moving moment, I thought.
Can I say something now that you mentioned the way that was shot? I don't know if you picked up on it, but it seemed to me like that was a throwback to the scene when Ned Stark was executed and she was with Yoren, and it was specifically shot like that, where he holds her against him and he forces her to look up at him, and you get a high angle shot looking down on her with her little child face and her wide eyes, and he's telling her in the same lines, look at me, Look at me.
Yeah,
don't look at that other. The hound
me.
tells her,
Yeah,
look at me. You don't want to be like me. You want to
No,
be
that's actually
something
real. I
different.
didn't pick up on that.
And
To me,
Right.
Yoren is the guy who taught her to do the kill list in the first place, if you remember.
Right.
And the death of Ned was what set her revenge arc in motion.
Right.
So this seemed to me
Good
like
point.
it was a
Full circle moment.
yeah.
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 My problem with stuff like that is that the best this show can do now is callbacks.
Yeah.
Everything that has any significance is just a repeat. Even Jamie's last words are a repeat from an earlier season. So the only thing they're really pulling off is callbacks. And also, I would argue Arya's way past the point where anybody could tell her turn away from this. I don't get it. It was a beautiful scene, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Gundark, if you had more to say about it. The two of them together is brilliant to me. I love just looking at them when they're on horseback riding in, when they're walking in the gates together, just them in the crowd. I love all of that, and I liked the fact that Arya for a second felt a little remorse that some people didn't get in the gates, and they were the last ones to get in because she had to push them out of the way, and that ends up coming into play later. But I guess the Hound, you could say, is one of the few people who could talk to her this way at the end. But why wait till now? And why be her murder mentor for all those years? And this is like a scene that should have happened 4 years ago. And so it makes you think, well, how much of what has happened between then and now is filler if we're doing a scene that should have happened 4 years ago? Mm-hmm. And that bothers me. And it also isn't true to Arya's character, I don't believe. For her to suddenly have a revelation and change, no matter who's telling her.
I see your argument, and that's been a big argument on social media. There's one of the cases where people feel like a character development was undercut, but I don't think I agree with you because Arya is always.
It depends on where she goes next. It depends on where she goes next. If she becomes a nun or whatever, then I'm saying it's too abrupt of a change.
Even in the moment, I think because she's always been a realist and a survivor. And he told her, you stay here and you're going to die. And there's no reason for you to die because she's already dead. So why don't you go where you can do what you do best for
That's the only way I can accept it, is that he was offering to save her life and she accepted. And she took it as his last act. And she gave him the honor of letting him go or whatever. I did not like the fact that she said thank you to him because it mirrored the dialogue from Bran to Theon. And it's like, how many thank yous are we going to get before people mindlessly go off and sacrifice themselves? Mm-hmm. I did like her calling him Sandor. Is that his name, Sandor? Mm-hmm. They should have just stuck with that. Mm-hmm. She should have said, Sandor, go kick his ass. Yeah. She should have said something like that. Go kill that fucker for me, or something. But the thank you was too much for me. But I'm nitpicking now. But it was a great scene.
Why don't we talk about Clegane Bowl then, since we lead into that? Clegane Bowl that we've waited for.
You mean Qyburn's death throes? That's how I think of it. Carillion, what do you think?
Yeah, the highlight of that whole thing for me was Qyburn's demise. Well, two things: Qyburn's demise, and I just the way Cersei just kind of like. Okay, I'm just gonna go.
I'll be in my office.
Exactly.
If I'm needed.
You boys talk to me.
It's a brother thing. You gotta nice catch up.
Yeah, I did like that. The Clegane Bowl itself, I mean, kind of going in, I kind of knew it was never going to be what we originally wanted it to be anyway. This if it was going to happen the way we wanted, it should have happened 3 seasons ago before
again
the mountain became zombified basically, because now it was just the Hound versus Frankenstein's monster is literally what that was. It wasn't really the brother against brother. So for that aspect of it, it didn't.
The mountain was never a real deep character though.
Yeah, the mountain was always, to me, was always more symbolic of that system of power and privilege, that victimizes people, just like rolls right over them like a steamroller and you can't stop it. And the fact that he's become this undead thing that's unstoppable was kind of in keeping with his role thematically, I thought, throughout the series. That really didn't bother me that much.
He was might is right embodied. Basically.
Yes,
Whatever
exactly.
you have the power to do, you can do it. You don't care if it's against the law. You flout the law. You don't care.
Yeah, and I like how you rip off the golden armor, and underneath is that horrible, hideous.
That was very WWF.
yeah, it was.
And I did like how Sandor realized that there's no way to destroy him. If he represents that system, I mean, this makes a sad statement about that there's really no way to fully destroy it. The best you can do is on your individual basis to try to be noble when you can and try to do good when you can. That system you cannot conquer except maybe through utter annihilation, which is what he realized he had to do with the mountain, is to go flying through the flames at the end.
I do think that it illustrated to me how much better a character in person the Hound was than the Mountain. The Mountain brought all the kind of horror to it, but the only reason you cared about that really was because the Hound and the humanity he brought to even his lines, and he's struggling against this impossible force. And I almost wish he had walked away. Like, I don't understand, why do you hate something so completely broken, and the building's going to fall on him anyway. He's going to die anyway. So why not just take your satisfaction of saying, you know what? I've had my confrontation, and I'm better than this.
Yeah.
I can just walk. You're a monster. You're never going to be a threat or anything ever again, because you're not even human. And if the stakes had been different, where he's stopping the Mountain from doing something, I think I would have been more into it, rather than just being a personal vendetta where he's just ready to sacrifice. His life is worth so much more than his brother's, that it was a shame to see him give it up. If they had done more with the Mountain, but again, a lot of stuff feels like filler to me. What did the Mountain do after he became a zombie? He just stood there and looked threatening most of the time. He was there to cut off the sun. And so I feel like we got filler when they should have had it at the end of last season, when he said, "You always know who's coming for you." That dragon pit would have been the perfect place for them to throw down. They should have done it last year, but it was pretty, wasn't it?
It was.
It looked amazing.
It started looking a little Flash Gordon-y to me, like a little too much like a set, and a little bit too fantastic with the dragon flying and all the fire and stuff. But yeah, then again, nitpicking. And Qyburn going out was freaking awesome. That was a big mistake.
Frankenstein done for.
I'm surprised he didn't kill her. She's not gonna say a word now. She learned.
She's moving on. Move on down.
I want you guys talk. I'm gonna be right over here. He's got the high ground.
Oh no, he's got
Don't try it.
I love that. I love that. But the mad scientist trope is one of my favorites, and you guys know that I love Frankenstein, and it's a treat always to see a creature rise against its creator, and to see it.
The creator's always the last to know. Like, you're playing with fire, and they're always the last to know. They're arrogant.
Always the last to figure it out.
1 second later, he's crushed. Just 1 second.
And I just thought the brilliant brain blown over the floor, or whatever, thrown over the floor. That's exactly, his brain just fell out. Like, I give up.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, if the Mountain was might makes right, Qyburn was science divorced from ethics, or the intellect divorced from ethics. It was great to see his brain smashed out. It was awesome. I loved that. I think that was my favorite.
I laughed my ass off when that happened. That was great.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we kind of skipped to the Clegane Bowl and the Arya and everything. Right before that, we can't. I just wanted to say Cersei was a big disappointment for me in this episode, because it was the epitome of everything she's done this whole season. Nothing she's done has made sense to me. You can say this is Cersei's character, and she's playing the Game of Thrones. You win or you die. Well, it seems like she's determined to die. Seems like she's not determined to win anymore, and she seems dumb. She sat there and just in complete denial, and that could have worked beautifully if they had some great tropes in here about battle and how it turns, and like the old thing of what's the Minotaur myth where if you see us coming with the black sails, you know your son has died. And the person throws themselves off the mountain because by accident someone put the black sail up or whatever.
Right.
That's the kind of tragedy you're looking for in a battle like this. But it didn't work for me. She just seemed dumb and she did nothing. She's staring at a green screen the whole time. What a horrible way for such a great villain to go out. Again, filler, like her best moments are past. They couldn't come up with anything good for her to do.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that point. I wanted her slow realization. I wanted it to be something like Macbeth, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth's slow realization that everything's turning against them.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing after another reveals what's coming. And I wanted to see that slow erosion of her. And she's had almost no lines this whole season, almost no screen time. Yeah, it was a waste of a great villain. Not enough time for you to see the humanity beneath that comes with losing everything that she has schemed and even killed her own children for, that she loved most.
That's one of the things that bothered me is they whitewash her now, saying she did everything for her kids. Well, I seem to remember her stepping right over some of her kids' bodies to get what she wanted.
Yeah.
So that's not true either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Carillion, what do you make of the way they treated Cersei?
The way I'm interpreting, especially the episode, I just looked at it as the whole complete feeling of hopelessness that she had, and I thought that, and I know we haven't gotten to her, demise yet, but it all kind of to me was encapsulated in this feeling of powerlessness, which is her biggest fear, is to have no power, because that's all she's ever craved is power. And so to me, on that level, it worked. I do think it's a waste to just have Lena Headey just stand there and stare at a green screen for an episode and not really do much. Because when she did do some things, to me, one of the most moving scenes in the entire episode was her and Jaime in the map room. When she's just lost and wandering and he comes up and they first see each other. Just a testament to the actress, because she's just amazing.
Yeah.
So good. That, and these are two basically villains, and you're actually getting emotional about it. It's like you want them to die, but it's like, oh my god, I was actually feeling emotional about it, or they're hiding there. So I think that, again, that's just a testament not necessarily to the material, but to the actors themselves. They just did such a good job for me.
Yeah, they did wonders with. But again, to tell us all of a sudden Cersei has no plan B, Cersei has no plan Z, when I remember in the past her ready to drink poison and give poison to her kid in her lap rather than be taken.
Yeah.
For her to not even conceive that this thing could go south and be such a tower of arrogance that she has no response when it goes bad.
Well, maybe. And I know this hasn't been officially addressed by the producers, but what did you take about wildfire going off in the middle of the blaze? See, there's a theory there. There's a theory out there that she had the whole place triggered to go up in flames herself if it started to go south. Maybe that was her plan B, although they just didn't address it.
That would have been a great way to get Daenerys to accidentally set that off with an attack, and then have her feel the guilt and everybody blame her for doing something she didn't actually do. Would have been much better in the direction they went. I assumed it was the Mad King's old traps, that they didn't find all of them. But it could have easily been Qyburn and Cersei's schemes, but they didn't show that because she just acted so arrogant. She thought there was no way she was going to lose. And when you say she was wandering lost in the map room, I understand this is her end. But the character doesn't know that. I mean, or the character, what I mean? It's like she's faced her in before, and she was never wandering lost when she faced her in before. Right. She always had a backbone. She always was ready to go down fighting, ready to go down spiteful, ready, whatever, to strike back with her last breath. I understand this is the end, and she's supposed to be broken down, but I don't see it. I think she'd still be looking for she'd have another plan. Even if it was to take her own life in the most epic way, so they don't get credit for it, or something.
Maybe, and again, just to play devil's advocate, maybe, I think there's fearsome an opponent as a fire-breathing dragon, so, the High Sparrow's not literally physically bringing the
you're saying
down.
You're saying she's never
that?
faced an opponent like a dragon before. You froze up for a minute, but you're saying she never faced an opponent like this
Correct.
bad before.
Yeah, I mean,
That
just
broke
from
down everything right
sheer
in front of her.
shock, just from a sheer shock value, she's never dealt with this before. So maybe it is just she's literally shell shocked because she always believes it has always worked out in the past. It's just going to work out again, and that's indicative of some of her dialogue that she used when she was standing up there talking, in denial when Qyburn's like, this is not safe anymore. We got to go. No, it's fine. They'll keep fighting, and then they throw it on their swords. No, it's fine. Something good will happen. We'll get out of this. It's like she's literally just gone into this hopeless denial at this point.
Well, personally, I think it was done as a plot point to justify Jamie being there for that scene, because otherwise,
it may very well have been. But
yeah.
Anyway, that was just
and as long as we're on Jamie and Cersei, it was a beautiful scene in a way, but it just verified everything bad I ever thought or said about Jamie, which is, again, I felt that was a shame. Total regression of his character. And again, what has his journey been for? It's filler now. If he ends up back where he started, why didn't we kill them both off together back when they were together? Why did he leave? Why? I mean, I understand it's a toxic relationship and they're addicted to each other, but not a good choice, not a good way to go for both those characters. It was lame, I felt. And
what would you have rather? Would you have rather have had him kill her, like many believed, and I believe partly, that he was going back there to confront her, and if he could not stop her, that he was going to kill her, to take responsibility for the atrocities that the two of them had committed.
I wish he had gone in with Tyrion's plan and rung the bells himself. I wish we had seen that. Instead, we're left to speculate that Jamie did one worthwhile thing. Instead, we're left with Jamie saying, I never cared about the fuckers in King Landing.
Yeah,
when he betrayed his oath to save them and dealt with a lifetime of being slandered because of it.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. It's just, why can't we get these simple things right? He could have had many more meaningful scenes with Cersei that would have held up the integrity of the character. Instead, we're left with questions, and what's going on and what happened. And I won't even go into the worthless Euron confrontation.
We can. Do we all agree that was just stupid?
That was the low point. That was the low point of the episode.
That was terrible.
Yeah, we don't even need to address that because it was
the magic Lucky Charms are in full effect when a guy can get blown off a ship, show up right where the secret plan that he knew nothing about is going down, and wait. And he said something like, "I was waiting for you." How did you freaking know he was coming? He didn't even know he was coming. And
why don't we then talk about the big controversy, Daenerys's switch to madness?
Okay.
Yeah, we're out of other options, aren't we?
Yeah. Let's torch this damn thing.
Carillion, what did you think? Because I think you're maybe going to have a different viewpoint.
Maybe you could bring us back to sanity, Carillion.
I haven't talked to you guys, by the way, so I don't know what you guys are feeling. But just from the way this has been going, I'm guessing Carillion might have the most positive outlook on it. And he might be frozen. Let it go. Let it go.
God damn it.
Madness. You're back. We missed you there for a minute. When I told you, when I asked you.
Yeah, you guys froze on me too. All right.
I was singing the Frozen theme.
Did hear that. So as far as her turn to madness, I just think that we were missing figure. I mean, I get that she's kind of going down that path anyway, and they've been slowly, kind of building that up really too fast because everything's too fast right now, because they're rushing to the finish line. But just to have her snap at the same moment that the armies are throwing down their swords and saying, "We get madness." You can't do anything, but if you wanted to do something, she could fly up to the Red Keep, take out Cersei, and madness. But instead, for no reason apparent, she just loses it and starts burning everybody. Madness. Madness.
madness.
So it's just, if they had, you know, even if it had been something like one of the Scorpions survived and we didn't see that, and there was a shot not killing Drogon, but maybe wounding him, and that like triggered this last ditch thing where, you know, they just both kind of lose it together and they just start burning everything, and maybe it was even Drogon's death throes, you know, maybe it really does.
Oh, now that's an interesting thought.
That is a cool thought.
If
Drogon had died,
they became one, and she was just like lost in the dragon rage because in the death throes, there's a Targaryen psychic connection, and yeah,
he lives just long enough to kind of go around and torch as much as he can before he falls dead. That could have been a little bit more interesting and had a little bit more meaning to it, I think.
When you brought up the, what is it called, Dragonfire? Wildfire. When you brought that up, that gave me a really good idea of how this could have gone. That could have honored Cersei and Daenerys if Cersei had had the thing booby trap saying, if you win, and if you get in the city with your dragon past my scorpions and you start torching anything, it'll set this off. The people will burn, and they will blame you.
Yeah.
And you will never be loved, and you will win a bloody throne in an exact opposite way you want to win it. And that's my last FU to you. That would have been way, way better and would have preserved everybody's integrity. I saw the turn as a complete betrayal of the character and nothing less, and just trash. This is where my pronunciation of garbage comes from, because every character, I hate stuff where they make every single character suffer. I can't find a single character to admire in this mess. No, even my bro or my pal Grey Worm went absolute full psychopath, which is, you know, I can almost see that being consistent with Martin in his view of war and everything. You know, the Unsullied are warriors, but it was the setting and everything. And I understand Grey Worm's enraged, but he could have found other ways in honest battle. He was cutting guys down before that, you know. Anyway, every single character suffered. Tyrion, I think, most of all in this episode, except for his one scene with Jaime, which again he didn't handle that cleverly. They didn't even give him obviously plot contrivance for him to face conflict in this coming episode. Only reason he did it that way, he just blatantly confessed by telling the guards, you know, and calling rank on him. He knows they're going to report him. But this Daenerys thing, no, just no. We can discuss it all day. There is no freaking way that character would sit there on that dragon, and they purposefully avoided showing her reaction while she's mowing all these people down, because if they showed that, she would be an absolute monster, and there'd be no way around. If she's sitting there,
never showed her face again.
Yeah, it never showed her again. So you're left with just the dragon, the fury of the dragon, the fear of the dragon. I almost expect her to say she lost control of the dragon or something next episode, but that won't work, and it won't. There's no way that'll work. But they're setting it up to be a conscious choice. They're going the way that I was hoping they wouldn't go, of making her the supervillain, making her the last pin you got to knock down or whatever. Dumb, horrible.
Can I say something here now? Let me ask you this. From online criticism, there have been even people that hated that about face in her character, said that they thought that maybe Martin was going to take it that direction in the end, and that if it had a clear foundation, like Carillion was saying, if there had been a build up to, if it had been earned, if we had a long character story arc, 2 more damn seasons, you know, of seeing her have loss after loss, of seeing signs of hereditary madness. There were no signs of hereditary madness.
No, I said earlier this season, she's showing no signs of madness at all. Exactly the opposite.
If there had been signs of hereditary madness exacerbated by betrayals, some really severe betrayals, one after another, some severe losses, instead, those kinds of things, give me a minute here. Instead, those kinds of things would just shut up for a second. They were forced into the last couple of episodes, and what happened is what could have been a tragic downfall that could have had the catharsis of pity and terror for a character we loved, that could have also supported Martin's thematics, that we can't necessarily rely on our heroes to always behave heroically. That we can't rely on ourselves, that often we are capable of the worst atrocities possible that we would never imagine ourselves doing. That seems to be part of the thematic core of Game of Thrones. And her downfall could have supported that if it had been developed properly. And even the people who hated that, as I was reading online over and over again, they were saying it in theory, it could work, but the execution was just so horrible that instead of being a tragic moment, what it became was a melodramatic plot twist for shock effect, basically. What it became, instead of a Shakespearean tragedy, it was a simple revenge tragedy, that was meant to sensationalize the violence. And worse than that, it turned her into a sexist stereotype. Because the stereotype of the mad woman in the attic, the woman who's just lurking and waiting to let loose her insane rage.
Right.
Well, that trope, it's been a problematic trope always. At its best, it can be like a really powerful expression of women's frustration and rage at being imprisoned in an oppressive system. At its worst, it can be a means of demonizing powerful and aggressive women. And the writers why didn't they see that in making her suddenly flip a switch, like, oh, she's hysterical, that they're playing into that sexist trope. And it's so frustrating because she was a fantastic character and her downfall could have been moving like a Shakespeare play. And instead it was just cheapened. It just makes me so angry. So it's not that I don't agree with her descent into madness. It's that it needs to be portrayed as a descent, not a flipped switch.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you think, Greedo, about? I know I shut you up there, but what do you think? Though do you agree that could Martin have pulled this off?
I don't care. I don't care.
Think that the character
Martin can't even finish the book, so who cares? But who knows? Martin's not perfect. He's written some really bad stuff too. I mean, or some stuff that I didn't enjoy. He may have taken characters. He's killed characters that I desperately wanted him to let live. He's degraded some characters that I wanted to see have honor. He does stuff all the time that I don't agree with. So who knows?
I just wonder if they had 2 additional years, and like we mentioned before, if he had been brought on to script some of the episodes, if he could have portrayed the change in her character over time in a more convincing way.
It would have to be a whole completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Because the justifications I've heard, which I only watched the behind the scenes stuff, I haven't read anything on the internet or anything. What they said was she's isolated. She lost her support. Well, has anybody ever heard of the fact that when you lose your mentors and your support, that's when you shine? That's when you step into your own. That's when you take the lessons they taught you and you apply them and you become your own person. No one told her go be a tyrant except bad people. Some people did say be a dragon or whatever. I remember some lines like that, but no one ever said go burn innocent people, go do things you never have ever believed in. Ser Jorah would be rolling in his grave if he wasn't ashes. That's like a complete disgrace to his character that he died protecting that. Is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to think of the whole story we've seen to this point. I don't care what lame excuse they come up with that she murdered some people. Sure, she's a ruler. She's got to make tough decisions. But she never, she put her dragons in prison because they were eating civilians and stuff and children and burning people indiscriminately. She couldn't control them.
Yeah.
She has a conscience, she has a conscience. And nobody with a conscience would sit there and do what she did. She mowed in zigzag lines through the whole city and never once went after her enemy, and she gave her time to escape. Yeah. So it wasn't about Cersei anymore. It was about punishing people, and there's nothing in her history or her character, nothing that would make her want to punish the people of King's Landing. King's Landing shouldn't even be all that important except as a symbol.
Yeah, I think that it was probably headed in this direction. I think that a really great writer could have, with time, made it convincing, and made it tragic. And that's what hurts me most of all, is the waste of a great potential. You can, tragic heroes, even though they commit atrocities, you can still love them. You know, I think of Othello, I think of Macbeth, I think of Oedipus Rex. You know, Oedipus, and her storyline could have followed along with those characters, and even if she had committed horrible acts, we still could have felt pity for her. And now, I mean, how do we even manage pity? You know, it's just, oh, it just makes
That's
me
the
so
point.
mad.
That's the point, isn't it? Because we have to let go of this character, and they're trying to justify murdering her, you know, having her overthrown in the next episode.
Right.
It's plot driven.
Yeah.
The characters are out the window, and
Absolutely.
it's
They
plot
had to
driven.
have that happen to
Right.
justify killing her in the next episode.
Yeah.
And whatever. You don't take somebody you've built the audience so much goodwill with and then just prepare them for I'm so sick of people subverting our expectations, you know, and defying
Well,
please can someone just give us something that makes sense?
Yes.
That's my only expectation, is that it be good, it makes sense. That's it.
You
I don't
know,
have any
well,
other expectations.
one of
Can
the
we
one of
work
the
on that?
interesting reviews I read, and I can't remember which reviewer it was, but they said that this is kind of indicative of broadcast television now, and kind of the battle between streaming media and broadcast television. They said that Game of Thrones is probably the last great series that we are all going to watch together as a weekly broadcast series. You know, that people will gather at work to talk about the next day, can't wait, and have to speculate and theorize for a week, you know, before the next episode. And he claimed that that drives a focus on surprise rather than ultimate satisfaction, you know, where you have to get surprise after surprise. And the thing is, Daenerys' turn to madness didn't have to be a surprise. It didn't have to be a sudden about face for it to be horrifying and deeply emotionally effective. You know, if you look at any tragedy, and the downfall is built over a long period, and it does, and in fact, in many cases, the great tragic stories, we know the outcome already. I mean, the audience is going to see Oedipus Rex, knew that story by heart. That was their mythology.
Yeah.
They knew where it was headed, and
Knew what was happening.
it didn't make it any less horrifying or have a less emotional impact to have that knowledge.
You have to connect with the character though and understand why
It's
they're doing
the
it.
character,
That's where
yes.
they go through that, so you don't have to.
Yes.
The catharsis of that and everything. This made no sense. There's no
Yeah.
catharsis to be had because it's just it's just a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's just like, why did they do this? You know, why?
Yeah, it's
Because
just-
we all know. Did any of us think she was capable of that? Did any of us really believe that we're watching a conscious choice of a character in that moment?
No.
It's dictated by some greater force. I'd believe the gods reached down and thumped her in the head and, you know, and made her do it before I would believe she would ever choose to do it. It's a disgrace. So, but it was beautifully done.
It was beautifully done, but it was done for the spectacle of it.
If only it had the right buildup, because I did love the horror of how that battle turned to massacre. You know, from the ground troops, from the people, from the perspective of the horror of the dragon as the weapon that you can't escape from. Whenever it all got out of control, the nightmare of that, and the director again did a wonderful job of getting the chaos of battle, you know, from the perspective of civilians during the last half of that battle as she was just raising the place. That could have been so effective to see the heroes who want to protect that city suddenly find that everything is just turning against them, where they are becoming the villains and they don't know what to do in response. And if you think about how the sack of King's Landing is like the great historic atrocity of this storyline of Game of Thrones, at least, is what, you know, in Robert's Rebellion, the sack of King's Landing, in which Tywin Lannister ordered the Mountain to do those horrific things, kill babies and rape and all that, and then Jaime had to stab the Mad King in the back. That's become like legend.
We're seeing the same story, aren't we?
Yes,
it's the exact same thing. John's probably John or Tyrion's gonna stab Daenerys in the back.
But it could have worked.
Yep.
All tragedies are the same story. It could have worked if it had been set up correctly. It could have been heartbreaking to see the people that we thought were specifically trying not to do that, to overturn that system and to create something better, to see them inevitably going down the same path.
I say just do a spinoff and show us what happened back then. I don't need to see it again. I want to see them learn from the mistakes. That was the whole point of all this. Yeah. And also, one of my favorite characters, Tyrion, is now an absolute and abject failure. There's no way to defend him anymore. This episode cut him down to size, so to speak. He has no legacy. He has nothing. He's completely destroyed. I just feel like every single character in this scenario was destroyed. And that's not great. And I wanted to say too, this is a throwback to Arthurian legend when some of the Arthurian legends had Arthur and Mordred getting together for a summit, like they're going to speak to each other and try to come to an agreement, and their troops are facing off in the mist and they can't really see each other well, and a snake comes up on one of their horses and one of them draws their sword to kill the snake, and the battle just engages and everyone dies. So this is going back forever and ever and ever, the tragedies of war and everything. So I get it. It was kind of effective in a way, but just kind of in a sad. All the details were so wrong that it was hard for me to get behind. It almost became like a parody or something. But for people saying the Northerners would never do that, of course they would.
Oh, come on, yeah.
And of course the Lannisters would. That you read the books, and it was they made the world into a nightmare. Their war did. That's one thing that we haven't seen up until this point is the war stopped having consequences on common people in the show, and so it started feeling more and more detached. They used to show us the consequences on regular people, like Martin always focused on. We lost that, and we got it back in this, but it was just out of place. And I also think they now have ethical leadership. Robb couldn't control the scope of his forces when they were fighting, and the Lannisters didn't care. So there was a lot of people rampaging through the countryside, and you heard atrocities on both sides. But when you have the leaders right in the front, and they can sort of in a way control what happens, and you have ethical leadership, it's an abject failure on all fronts for all of them.
Yeah.
So. But Tyrion is the one I'm most crushed about, and Daenerys is just gonna. I mean, it's just sad. It's sad that we can't get a do-over. We can't get a do-over. This is all we got. And
we're at the 1 hour mark, so why don't we end up by talking about this final scene, the White Horse. Carillion, you were saying something about the horse earlier.
Yeah, and this is just fan theory type stuff, but to me it would give at least some slight little bit of purpose that Bran actually warged into that horse and went to save Arya. At least it would give him, because he's done nothing. He's really done nothing this entire season. It's like he became the three-eyed raven and then just decided to be like, oh well, I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing, not gonna give you any information, not gonna help anyone. So at least maybe he could save Arya.
He's in the past watching a better show.
Yeah. So that's basically my thought on that.
I didn't think of that's very cool, because they haven't emphasized the warging ability at all. It hasn't really come into play.
Right.
Yeah, it was a kind of mystical moment. The child that she was trying to save was carrying a white horse, the little carving, and that reminded me of Shireen Baratheon with the stag, carrying the little stag when she was burned. Right. So it was kind of a reminder of Arya tried to save her and couldn't, but you still have to try. You still got to try. And I think she's riding out now on the pale horse to avenge the deaths of those people in King's Landing.
Yeah, I took it as death imagery, and also in a way she saved the horse as well, because the horse was spinning in circles, and she came over and calmed it. Yeah. And together they had a purpose, and they escaped together. So even though she couldn't save anyone else, there was this one life left standing that saved her, and she saved it. And it's almost like saying, you can't save people, you can't control anything that happens, but this beast, that will follow your commands, you can work together and get out. But the nature of people will never be pliable enough to where you can save them. They're always going to run back into the fire. Yeah. But it was a shame that Arya rousted them from that building that possibly would have still been standing and ran them all out into the danger. That was kind of a bad call on their part. So I did like the little girl pushing her away and running back to her mom.
Yeah, that was effective.
And I like that the mom was the one. I like the cross-cutting between Arya being trampled and Sandor being beaten by his brother, and that mom came up and saved Arya. The unknown stranger comes, and there's little bits of hope that the best you can do is on the personal level to try to do goodness in the moment that you're in. It seems like that's the only hope this show has left for
I gotta say though, I am tired of Arya just being super powered. I know she suffers and she takes some hits and stuff, but there's no way she would have survived. I mean, if that was the only thing in the episode, I would let it go. But this episode is just full of atrocities of plot armor, ridiculously super powered characters, ridiculously dumb characters, and it was just one more kind of insult to injury to me. Like there's, I get it. It was an effective shot, all this long continual shot, and also I will never forgive them for cutting to Arya during Clegane Bowl.
Oh,
That
okay.
was that's like it's like watching
You
the
don't
that's like
have
watching
a-
the goal line stand in the Super Bowl and they cut away into like a used car commercial or something. He's like,
You
what?
didn't like the cuts, good.
Yeah, you lose your satellite signal. I was not invested in Arya rolling on the ground. Arya's in no danger. There's no way she's dying here.
Madness.
We know the Hound or the Mountain is dying. Probably both. I want to see that.
I'll give you that.
That was horrible. I hate that.
Oh, I'm not.
And I saw in the
I'm not
after
giving
show
you
they
that
said
one.
that was a conscious choice that the director and editor together said let's cut between it, it'll be great or whatever. No, it's too much.
Well, I'm right with them. I loved it.
Okay.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was very effective. I thought it was another way to tie those characters together. That they're literally hitting the ground and hitting the walls and going up and down at the same time. And I just thought it was very effective. And the cuts weren't that long. It's not like they cut away for 10 minutes. They
That's
literally
what's
cut
so
away
annoying
for
about
2
them.
seconds.
That's
But I
what's so
loved it. I
annoying
thought it was
about
that's what made it effective. So,
Oh wait, you froze up for the whole last 2 minutes. I didn't hear anything you said. So
No.
moving
I
on.
can tell. That's why you
No, this is
responded.
just a minor. This is a minor nitpick, but I have
Yeah.
a real problem with tension breaking edits in films, like the one from Rogue One when the guy unloads with the cannon on the stormtroopers and they cut away to Jyn reacting right in the middle of the shot. I will never forgive that one
But-
stupid move in the middle of a brilliant movie.
How is it tension breaking? It's not like they cut away
Because
to
I want to see
a
the
clown
guy
juggling.
executing all the stormtroopers. Clown juggling. That's exactly what it was. But she had nothing to do with anything. And they just cut away to her face going, what's going on? And then cut back to all the stormtroopers falling dead. It's like, stop it! Just show the guy. The guy has one ability to mow down stormtroopers. Will you show it? Without interrupting? I mean, please. I'm so easy to please. Just give me that.
Yeah, you really are.
Could I have
Without
a game
commercial
bowl without a
interruption.
Doritos? Come on, Arya eating Doritos.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
I don't know what you came to do, but I ain't come to lose.
And trying to sell me Doritos or whatever.
Doritos Blaze, a bold new flavor that brings the heat.
Speaking of descent into madness, Greedo.
Right. I waited a long time for Cocaine Bowl. A lot of people did. I just
Yes,
And
yes.
you got it.
stop, Arya. I don't care what you're doing right now. Go kill another zombie king. Or whatever the hell you do with your magic. She should have been stabbing Euron's eyes out. Then I would have been happy for him.
My final thought and wish and dream and hope that will never happen is about this episode is that we could have a time machine to go back and save the Hound, so that we can have a Hound and Arya spinoff series.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
would
know
be the
it's like
greatest thing
living in the
ever.
past, but how great to live in that past it would be. It
Yeah.
would just be phenomenal. And I was truly struck by just how great the actor playing the Hound actually is, and how
Yes,
great
he's
the character is. One of the best characters we've ever seen in anything. He will
Yeah.
go down and at least he got an honorable end or for his character,
Yeah.
to a degree. But yeah, it would have been so great to defy. Why can't we defy expectations and let someone live who's totally marked for death.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I've been saying that since day one. If the Hound survives this show, it would just be amazing. It would be so convention breaking.
Instead, they go, well, the Hound's marked for death, so let's have his last act really move Arya's story forward. Well, how about the Hound unexpectedly lives and Arya dies? What would that do for his story going forward?
Right.
I mean, just that's I wouldn't want to see that, but you know what I mean.
I know
Really
what you
give
mean,
us really subvert some expectations in a good way. But anyway, hats off to the Hound. We will never see his like again.
No, we will not.
Another casting coup. Another reason for the show to exist is that we got that brilliant interpretation of the character straight from the page, just done perfectly. And Arya is brilliant too. The scenes of them together, I love both those characters so much. So I just I don't like how super powered Arya is anymore. But whatever, we'll see. I try to remember. There's one episode left. But I've been saying that this whole season. Maybe next time they'll fix this. Like when Jamie left, maybe they'll fix Jamie. No.
Yeah.
No.
Do we want to end with any, like, what do you think will happen next time? Any big prediction? Final, wrap it up.
Yeah, this is interesting. What do you think, Curly?
I would say I just think that obviously. I think it's obvious that Dany's going to meet her demise, whether it's through Arya's hand or Jon's hand. I've been saying it's going to be Jon all along, but now, based on this past episode, I think it might actually be Arya. I think they're setting it up to be Arya. I think that's going to be obviously the big thing that happens. But as far as the Iron Throne and if it even exists anymore after all that devastation, I'm not really sure how that's going to go down. What about you guys?
I had made a big mistake in prediction. If you watched the last episode where Greedo and I talked together, whenever you just went away without any signs or blessings, Curly and Trader.
He just buggered off.
I predicted that Daenerys would raise a dragon from Dragonstone because there's a lore in the books that there's a dragon that sleeps beneath Dragonstone. So I thought that was going to be what would make up for the missing dragons, that it would unite with Drogon. I'm wondering, though, if that couldn't still happen in the final episode, if Jon couldn't wake a dragon.
So that's what you were saying. So Gundark, that's what you were telling me last time.
Yes, that was what I did.
When you were saying, I know something that's going to happen.
I was just so sure that it was
you were pretty confident about that.
I think it could be symbolic. Like I said, a dragon could be a person.
Yeah.
And so if Jon is just not discovered, he's a Targaryen. If his Targaryen comes out, that's the same as a dragon waking in Dragonstone. If it happens at Dragonstone, it's the same thing. I personally think Jon, whatever happens, which I think Jon's going to kill Daenerys, I think Arya's going to be the one to convince him to do it. And also because Daenerys obviously wants Sansa dead at this point.
Yeah.
Because Sansa told her we're not going to bend the knee. We don't want a king or queen. So she's already told her that. Daenerys isn't going to forget that at this point.
Nope.
So her next step is to fly the dragon back north and obliterate Winterfell, probably. But anyway, I think Jon's going to do it, and then Jon's going to say, Targaryens, they shouldn't exist anymore. They're too dangerous. Look at what happens, and so he's going to bugger off somewhere. He's either going to die, or he's going to bugger off.
He might become like Master Aemon, the Targaryen at the beginning, who went and joined the Night's Watch, who was the heir to the throne.
He was the heir to the throne.
Yeah, so
exactly. So it'd be full circle.
Who's going to get the throne then? And also, Curly, I want to know: do you think Tyrion's going to live or die?
Tyrion's going to live. Tyrion's going to live.
Okay, I think he's going to die.
I think he's going to die. No, I do. I had thought he was going to live originally, but I think he's toast after.
He deserves to die at this point. He's not the same guy.
That's the crap between him and Daenerys.
After you betrayed Varys like that, you committed the very same kind of act. You know the consequences. And
Dany has it in for him, and I think
he surely does. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of earned it. But okay, so who's going to end up on the throne? If Jon, we're agreeing that Jon probably not.
No.
Somebody said Sansa. Who was it?
Sansa.
That was your original prediction, wasn't it?
That was my original prediction since day one. Yeah, I'm sticking with it.
Okay. And I'm sticking with mine that there will be no Iron Throne. I think it's going to go by the wayside somehow in this final conflagration. Somehow it will be destroyed.
Sam will pull up the ancient documents of democracy from the previous culture that is equivalent to the Greeks.
End up with,
Convince them to be Democratic Republic.
We'll end up with a monarchy of some kind, but there will be no Iron Throne.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think my original prediction was Daenerys, and I think it would kick ass at this point if she actually ended up being the tyrant. I mean, and just told everybody to go F themselves. And if they're gonna go this route, she's earned it as well as any, she's earned it better than anyone. Jon hasn't earned jack. You know, he hasn't done anything in a long time. He sent his freaking wolf off, and. But all Daenerys does is bully the commoners and the midgets. So, but yeah, my original prediction was that Jon would sacrifice himself, and that act would bring Daenerys back from any kind of villainy she was contemplating doing, back to remembering who she really is. But that is all trash.
I think it's too late for that. It's too late for that.
And my prediction is I will probably be told to shut up again next week because I will be so outraged.
That too. I'll put a bet on that one.
But however long this next episode is, it's just going to be a slugfest to even get through it. I wonder what the ratings are. I really do. I wonder what the ratings are for this, if there's any way to tell on streaming stuff. But I just almost expect a huge crash drop off, like. Almost like they tried to assassinate this show on purpose, which makes no sense because they got careers to get to. You'd want to leave on a high note. Did they just miscalculate, or they just don't care? And what a betrayal of all the people who worked their asses off for the show that you can see are so committed and everything. I don't know. I wish you guys had left me alone. I told you I wasn't as into it as you guys were when we started. I don't know. Game of Thrones, I don't know. I'll go back and watch it. Now I care about it again a little bit, and just to see it.
The anguish.
To see it brought so low, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. But to see it brought so low to where I can't even watch a single episode, and it never redeems itself. I'm waiting still for it to redeem the bad decisions from the first episode. Well, and any of the logic, just anything, they're just compounding. They don't care, you know.
We got one more episode to go, and then I guess we can make final comments on the series as a whole.
Yeah. Our last episode is gotta be ding ding shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Shame. Unless we like it, maybe they'll explain everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we ready to wrap it up then?
Yeah.
You still Curly, you're saying 6 out of 10 basically. You still thought it was.
I still thought it was enjoyable enough. Though I mean, I didn't think it was just like you kind of summed it up as complete garbage.
Yeah.
You know, I think honestly, more than anything, the beauty and the cinematography of it, to me, salvaged it at least enough to where like I said, I mean, I've watched the episode 3 times in 4 days. You know, so it wasn't some just horrible torture to get through for me.
And you mentioned that if it had had the right foundation, you know, the plot of the Daenerys Mad Queen stuff could have worked for you. Yeah. So, you know, there's
it was close. That's the thing. It was close in certain aspects. Yeah. That I got. It'd
have to be a completely different set of circumstances and a whole different show for me to buy Daenerys as any kind of Mad Queen. And if they'd even had something in the past where she said, you know, when I'm riding the dragon, our minds become one, and I start becoming an animal, and I want to burn, and I want to eat, and I want to. If they had something that she was. Everybody, you know, like even like in Star Wars, when the dark side, you have to hold it back, you know, or release to it or whatever. And Martin has it constantly in the books that people can warg too far and become animal.
Yeah.
You know, and an animal instinct takes over. If there was some explanation like that, that's about the only one I could buy, because I just don't believe the character would ever do that. Kill children is absurd. After everything she's been through and the children she's lost and the people she's freed.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's our episode for this week. That's episode 5 of Game of Thrones season 8, and we only have one more to go next week.
Thank God.
Shame. Shame.
So we will be back. We will be back to wrap that up and to do a season recap after that. Final thoughts on the whole thing. So anyway, in the meantime, leave us some comments below on YouTube. Visit us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter at Cantina Club 78. Remember to like us, subscribe to us, and leave us comments. We will see you next time. Bye, guys.
I just want to say, both of you shut up for just a minute.
No.
I also want to say, try collecting taxes from the people of Pompeii. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm gonna tune in for episode 1 of Arya and her dog.
Homeward Bound, starring Ghost.
Can't wait for that. Yep.